Blood pooled across white marble as a woman's body lay broken at the bottom of the staircase, her screams still echoing through a billionaire's penthouse. She wasn't just dying, she was pregnant with his child, the baby his wife could never give him. The hands that pushed her belonged to the woman who had begged her to carry that child. What happens when the person you trust destroys the one thing you sacrificed everything for? Have you watched jealousy consume someone? Seen rage turn into violence? Felt betrayed by the person who needed you most? This is about desperation meeting jealousy, trust colliding with rage, and three people caught in a tragedy nobody could stop. By the end, you'll know how one shove led to murder charges, how justice caught privilege, and how two broken souls found healing. If jealousy has ever destroyed something you loved, drop a comment. Tell me, how far would rage take you before you stopped? Now let me take you back to where desperation made a billionaire kneel, and kindness made a maid say yes to something that would nearly kill her. She was already falling, and he was still too far away to catch her. Ashford burst through his penthouse door expecting silence. Instead, he heard screaming. Raw. Desperate. The kind that meant someone was dying. He ran. His feet hit marble floors that cost more than most people's houses. Past furniture that looked good but felt empty. Toward the grand staircase that stretched up like a spine through the center of his life. That's when he saw her. Zara. 6 months pregnant with his child. Tumbling down 12 marble steps. Her body hit the first step. Then the second. Then the third. Each impact made a sound he'd hear in nightmares for the rest of his life. Her hands reached for the railing. For anything. But there was only air and gravity and cold stone waiting below. She screamed his name. He couldn't reach her fast enough. Her body landed at the bottom with a crack that echoed through the entire penthouse. Blood started spreading immediately. Dark red against white marble. Like spilled wine at a party nobody wanted to attend. Ashford dropped to his knees beside her. Zara. Zara, stay with me. Her eyes found his. Pupils wide with shock and pain. Her hands clutched her stomach. Protective even in crisis. Even falling, she tried to shield the baby she carried. My baby, she whispered. Blood on her lips. Save my baby. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands. Dialed 911. Gave his address like he was reading from a script. But his eyes never left her face. Female, pregnant, severe fall. Massive bleeding. Send everyone. Now. He threw the phone aside and pressed his hands against the worst of the bleeding. His $1,000 suit soaked through in seconds. Designer watch ticking away time they didn't have. You're going to be okay, he said. Lying. Because he had no idea if that was true. Zara's breathing turned shallow. Fast. Her skin went pale like paper. Don't close your eyes, Ashford begged. Please don't close your eyes. She tried to speak but only blood came out. That's when he looked up. At the top of the staircase, frozen like a statue, stood Celeste. His wife. Her hand was still extended. Still shaped around the push she'd given. Her face showed horror at what she'd done, but not surprise. She'd meant to do it. Their eyes met across the distance. Husband and wife. 8 years of marriage. And in that moment, Ashford understood everything. The jealousy. The rage. The months of watching him care for Zara. It had all led here. To this moment. To blood on marble and a dying woman between them. You, he said. One word. But it carried enough hate to fill the entire penthouse. Celeste took a step back. Then another. Like she could rewind time by walking backward. Like she could undo the push by moving away from its consequences. But Zara was still bleeding. The baby was still in danger. And sirens were already screaming up Park Avenue toward them. 3 days ago, Ashford had touched Zara's lower back while helping her up these same stairs. His palm warm through thin cotton. Her breath catching, not from pregnancy but from his touch. The moment had stretched too long. Both of them aware. Both of them pulling back. Celeste had seen it from the doorway. Had watched her husband's hand linger. Had seen Zara's small smile. And something inside Celeste had cracked. Now paramedics flooded through the door. Professional. Efficient. They moved Ashford aside with firm hands and took over. Checking vitals. Starting IVs. Speaking in code he didn't understand. BP dropping. Fetal distress. We need to move. They loaded Zara onto a stretcher. Ashford followed without asking permission. Climbed into the ambulance without thinking. His hands were still covered in her blood. "Sir, are you family?" a paramedic asked. "She's carrying my child," Ashford said. Voice hollow. "I'm not leaving her." The paramedic didn't argue. As the ambulance doors closed, Ashford looked back one last time. Celeste stood in the doorway of their building. Security guards beside her. She looked small suddenly. Powerless. Her designer clothes and perfect hair couldn't hide what she'd become. A woman who'd pushed a pregnant woman down the stairs. The ambulance pulled away. Sirens wailing. And Ashford held Zara's cold hand the entire ride to the hospital. Have you ever witnessed the exact moment everything changed? When one action destroyed everything built before it? Tell me in the comments. They weren't supposed to become anything. Not to each other, not like this. 6 months before the fall, Zara Hayes was just another invisible person in New York City. The kind who cleaned rich people's houses and sent money home to family who needed it more. She'd answered an ad for a full-time housekeeper. Good pay. Private residence. Upper East Side. The interview was in a penthouse that made her childhood home look like a shoebox. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Views that cost more than she'd make in 10 years. Furniture that looked expensive to sit on. Celeste interviewed her. Not Ashford. "You'll work 6 days a week," Celeste said. Looking at her phone more than at Zara. "Light cleaning. Organizing. Cooking when we entertain. You'll have your own room. Health insurance. 2 weeks vacation." "That sounds good," Zara said, trying not to sound too desperate. "One more thing." Celeste finally looked up. Discretion. "What happens in this home stays in this home." Understood. Zara nodded. She got the job. For 3 years, she moved through that penthouse like a ghost. She learned which floorboards creaked, which rooms Celeste avoided, which corners Ashford retreated to when his marriage felt suffocating. She cleaned around their fights, around their silences, around the separate bedrooms they pretended were normal. Ashford barely noticed her at first. She was just the woman who made sure his shirts were pressed and his coffee was ready. Background noise in his life of board meetings and business deals. But then one day, everything shifted. Zara was coming home from the market when she saw Mrs. Chen from the 3rd floor struggling with her groceries. The elderly woman could barely walk, let alone carry bags up 3 flights of stairs. Zara didn't think. She just helped. Carried the bags up. Made sure Mrs. Chen got inside safely. Unpacked everything and put it away properly. When she finally made it back to the penthouse, 20 minutes late, Ashford was there. "Where were you?" he asked. Not angry. Just curious. Zara explained about Mrs. Chen. Something changed in Ashford's expression. Like he was seeing her for the first time instead of just looking past her. "That was kind of you," he said. "It was nothing." "No." He stepped closer. "It wasn't nothing." Most people would have walked past her. Their eyes met. Really met. And for just a second, Zara saw past the billionaire to the man underneath. Lonely. Tired. Human. She looked away first. Boundaries remembered. "I should get started on dinner." But the moment stayed between them. After that, Ashford noticed her more. Said good morning. Asked how her day was. Small things that shouldn't have meant anything but somehow did. Zara learned things about him. How he took his coffee. How he rubbed his neck when stressed. How he stared out the windows at night like he was searching for something he'd lost. She also learned about Celeste's obsession with having a child. Overheard phone calls with doctors. Found pamphlets about fertility treatments hidden in bathroom drawers. Saw the way Celeste's face went blank every time another treatment failed. One night, Zara was cleaning the hallway when she heard crying from the bathroom. Celeste's voice. Broken. Raw. Another failed cycle. I can't do this anymore. Ashford's response was quiet. Defeated. Then what do we do? Silence. Then 3 words that would change everything. We find someone. Zara froze. She shouldn't be listening. This wasn't her business. But she couldn't move. Surrogacy? Ashford asked. We can't keep failing, Celeste said. Voice cold now. Clinical. We need someone young. Healthy. Someone we can trust. Who would agree to that? Pause. Then, what about the girl who works for us? Zara's blood went cold. They were talking about her. Like she was a solution to a problem instead of a person with her own life. She backed away from the door. Quiet. Careful. And went to her room without finishing her work. That night, she couldn't sleep. She thought about her younger brother back home. How hard she worked to send him money for college. How she'd sacrificed so much already. Her body was the one thing that was completely hers. And they wanted to rent it. Have you ever noticed someone you weren't supposed to notice? That first moment of awareness you couldn't take back? Share below. She thought they'd ask her to work longer hours. They asked her to carry their child. 3 days after Zara overheard that conversation, Celeste called her into the living room. Formal. Like a business meeting. Ashford wasn't there. Just Celeste. And a stack of papers on the glass coffee table. Sit down, Zara, Celeste said. Not unkind. Just matter of fact. Zara sat. Her heart already racing because she knew what was coming. I'm going to be direct, Celeste started. We've been trying to have a child for 5 years. Multiple fertility treatments. Surgeries. Nothing has worked. The doctors say my chances of carrying a baby to term are almost 0. Zara stayed quiet. We're considering surrogacy, Celeste continued. And we'd like you to be our surrogate. There it was. Out in the open. These documents outline everything. Celeste pushed the papers forward. Financial compensation. Medical coverage. Legal protection. You'd be well taken care of. Zara looked at the papers without touching them. Numbers jumped out. Dollar amounts that could change her life. Pay off her brother's student loans. Help her family. But something inside her resisted. This is a lot to think about, Zara said carefully. Of course. Take your time. Read everything. But I need an answer within a week. Celeste stood. Interview over. Zara took the papers to her room. Read them cover to cover. The money was real. The benefits were generous. Everything was legal and professional. But it felt wrong. This wasn't her dream. It was theirs. Her body wasn't a tool for someone else's happiness. 2 days later, she gave her answer. I can't do it, Zara said. Standing in that same living room. Hands shaking but voice steady. This is my body. It's not for sale. I'm sorry but no. Celeste's face went carefully blank. I understand. Thank you for considering it. That should have been the end. But it wasn't. For the next 3 days, tension filled the penthouse like smoke. Celeste barely spoke to her. Ashford looked defeated every time she saw him. On the 4th day, Zara finished her shift late. The penthouse was quiet. She thought everyone had gone to bed. She was in the kitchen putting away the last of the dishes when she heard footsteps. Ashford stood in the doorway. Still in his suit from work. Tie loosened. hair messy like he'd been running his hands through it. Zara, can we talk? Her stomach dropped. Mr. Ashford, I already gave my answer. I know. He stepped into the kitchen. And I respect that. But please, just give me 5 minutes. She nodded, wary. What happened next shocked her. Ashford walked to the center of the kitchen, looked at her for a long moment, then slowly dropped to his knees. A billionaire. On his knees. In front of his housekeeper. What are you doing? Zara whispered. I'm begging you, Ashford said. His voice cracked. I know I have no right to ask this. I know it's your body, your choice, your life. But I'm begging you anyway. Tears ran down his face. Real. Not rehearsed. I've tried everything, he continued. Every treatment. Every doctor. Every option. And they've all failed. My wife can't carry a child. Adoption agencies have turned us down. You're my last hope. Zara's own eyes filled with tears. I'm not asking because you work for us, Ashford said. I'm asking because you're the only person we trust. Because you're kind and strong and good. Because I'm desperate and I don't know what else to do. He stayed on his knees. Hands clasped. Completely vulnerable. Zara thought about her mother. How she died when Zara was 17 because they couldn't afford the treatment she needed. How helpless Zara had felt watching her slip away. She understood what it felt like to want something desperately and have no way to get it. Please, Ashford whispered. If there's any part of you that understands what this kind of loss feels like, please help me. The kitchen was silent except for both of them breathing. Zara knew she should say no again. Knew this was too much to ask. Knew it would complicate everything. But looking at this broken man on his knees, she saw her younger self begging doctors to save her mother. She saw the pain of wanting something life and death important and having no control. Okay, she heard herself say. I'll do it. Ashford looked up, disbelief on his face. What? I'll do it. Not for the money. But because I understand what it's like to feel this helpless. Because no one should have to beg on their knees for hope. Ashford stood. For a second, she thought he might hug her. But he stopped himself. Boundaries still there. Barely. Thank you, he said. Voice thick with emotion. You have no idea what this means. But Zara noticed something as he walked away. At the top of the stairs, barely visible in shadow, Celeste stood watching. She'd seen the whole thing. Seen her husband on his knees. Seen the intimacy of that moment. And the expression on her face was cold enough to freeze blood. What's the one thing money could never buy from you? What boundary would you never cross, no matter the price? Comment below. The richest man in New York was on his knees, not with power, but with surrender. After Zara agreed, everything moved fast. Too fast. Lawyers appeared with contracts. Doctors scheduled appointments. Medical screenings. Psychological evaluations. Blood tests. Everything needed to make a human being inside another human being. Celeste handled it all with cold efficiency. Scheduling. Coordinating. Making sure every detail was perfect. But she didn't talk to Zara. Not really. Just instructions. Your appointment is at 3. Don't eat after midnight. Sign here. Like Zara was an employee handling a project instead of a woman about to carry her child. Ashford was different. He attended every single appointment. Sat beside her during consultations. Asked questions the doctors seemed surprised he cared about. Took notes. Are there risks? He asked one doctor. All pregnancies have risks, the doctor said. But Zara is young and healthy. She should be fine. Should be. That word hung in the air like a warning nobody wanted to hear. The embryo transfer was scheduled for 2 weeks later. They used Ashford's genetic material and an egg donor, not Celeste. Her eggs weren't viable. Another failure she couldn't control. The day of the transfer, all three of them went to the clinic. The room smelled like antiseptic and artificial flowers. Trying too hard to feel comfortable. Failing. Zara lay on the examination table. Paper gown. Cold gel. Ultrasound wand. The whole medical routine that made something deeply personal feel mechanical. Celeste sat in the corner. On her phone. Barely watching. Ashford stood beside Zara. His hand hovering near hers on the table. Not quite touching but close enough that she could feel the warmth. "Are you scared?" he asked quietly. "Terrified," Zara admitted. "You're the bravest person I know." Their eyes met. Something passed between them that had nothing to do with the procedure and everything to do with being seen. Really seen. By another person who understood fear and courage weren't opposites. They were partners. "Ready?" the doctor asked. Zara nodded. The procedure was quick. Painless. Almost anticlimactic for something so huge. "Now we wait," the doctor said. 2 weeks until we can test for pregnancy." Those 2 weeks were the longest of Zara's life. She went about her normal routine. Cleaning. Cooking. Organizing. But every moment, she wondered if something was growing inside her. A life. Not hers. But hers to protect for 9 months. Ashford checked on her constantly. "How are you feeling? Do you need anything? Are you comfortable?" His attention felt warm. Caring. Innocent. Celeste watched it all with eyes that got colder every day. Finally, test day arrived. All three of them sat in the doctor's office. Zara's blood had been drawn that morning. Now they waited for results that would change everything or change nothing. The doctor came in holding a file. Her expression gave nothing away. "Well?" Celeste asked. Impatient. The doctor smiled. "Congratulations. Zara is pregnant." Silence. Then Ashford made a sound Zara had never heard from him. Something between a laugh and a sob. Pure relief and joy mixed together. Tears ran down his face. "Thank you," he said to the doctor. "To Zara. To the universe. Thank you." Celeste smiled. Perfect. Controlled. She pulled out her phone. "I need to take a photo for our announcement." Just like that, it became a social media moment. But Ashford wasn't looking at the camera. He was looking at Zara. His hand finally touching hers. Squeezing gently. "You did it," he whispered. "We did it," she corrected. Celeste caught the exchange. Saw the hand holding. Saw the intimacy in that small touch. She took her photo. Posted it online with a caption about surrogacy journeys and gratitude and modern families. But inside, something cracked. That night, Celeste sat in her home office going through old photos. Her and Ashford on their wedding day. Vacation in Italy. Holiday parties. 8 years of marriage captured in digital images. When was the last time he'd looked at her the way he'd looked at Zara that afternoon? When was the last time he'd held her hand like she was precious? When was the last time she'd felt like more than a business partner in designer clothes? Celeste pulled up her phone. Scrolled through her own Instagram. Perfect photos. Perfect life. Perfect lie. She opened a new search, emotional affairs during surrogacy. The results filled her screen. Stories of men falling for their surrogates. Marriages ending. Families destroyed. Celeste closed her eyes. This was supposed to fix her marriage. Give them the child that would bring them together. Make them a real family. Instead, she'd invited another woman into their home. Given Ashford permission to care for her. Created a situation where he'd bond with someone else over the one thing Celeste couldn't provide. She'd made the biggest mistake of her life. And it was too late to take it back. Have you ever said yes to something you knew would cost you, but couldn't say no because of someone's pain? Share your story. Pregnancy was supposed to bring them together. Instead, It drew lines that would become battle zones. The first sign of life was morning sickness. Brutal. Relentless. Zara spent the first 6 weeks hugging toilets and trying not to vomit during work hours. Ashford noticed immediately. "You're pale. Are you okay?" "Morning sickness," Zara said, trying to smile. "Failing. What can I do?" "Nothing. It'll pass." But Ashford didn't accept that answer. By the next morning, the kitchen was stocked with ginger tea, crackers, and every anti-nausea remedy known to medicine. A pregnancy pillow appeared on her bed. Bland foods that were easier on her stomach. "You didn't have to do all this," Zara said. "Yes, I did. You're carrying my child. The least I can do is make you comfortable." Celeste watched from her office. Saw the way Ashford hovered. The way he moved meetings to check on Zara. The way his whole schedule started revolving around someone else. At first, Celeste told herself it was normal. He was just being responsible. Taking care of his investment. But investments don't get fresh flowers delivered to their room twice a week. Investments don't get custom meal plans from a nutritionist. Investments don't get smiled at like they hung the moon. The 12-week ultrasound was when everything shifted. All three of them went. Celeste in designer clothes. Ashford in a suit from a morning meeting. Zara in comfortable clothes that were starting to get tight around the middle. The ultrasound room was dark except for the screen showing static that meant nothing to non-medical people. "Let's see what we have here," the technician said. Cheerful. Like this was just another day. The wand pressed against Zara's stomach. Cold gel. Pressure. Then suddenly. A heartbeat. Fast. Strong. Unmistakable. Ashford made that sound again. The sob laugh that came from somewhere deep. He grabbed Zara's hand without thinking. Squeezed it tight as tears ran down his face. "That's my baby," he whispered. "That's my baby." Zara squeezed back. Emotional too. Because it was real now. Not just nausea and tiredness. An actual tiny human growing inside her. They stayed like that. Hands clasped. Both crying. Both overwhelmed. The technician took measurements. Showed them the tiny shape on screen that barely looked human yet. Pointed out where the head would be. The arms. The legs. "Everything looks perfect," she said. "Due date is March 15th. Ashford couldn't stop smiling. "Did you hear that, Zara? March 15th. That's when we meet them. We. Not, I meet them, or Celeste and I meet them. We. Like Zara was part of this. More than just a carrier. A partner in creating this life." Celeste heard it too. From her chair across the room where she'd been checking emails instead of watching the screen. She looked up just in time to see Ashford and Zara together. Hands clasped. Sharing a moment that should have been hers. That should have been her hand he held. Her tears he wiped away. Her face he looked at with such tenderness. Something inside Celeste went numb. After the appointment, Ashford insisted on taking them both to lunch. Celebrate. A nice restaurant with white tablecloths and wine Celeste drank too much of. Ashford barely touched his food. Too excited. Kept pulling up the ultrasound photo on his phone. Showing it to Zara. "Look at that. That's a whole person. A whole person you're growing." "We're growing," Zara corrected gently. "It's your baby. I'm just borrowing my body to help. You're doing way more than that." They smiled at each other. Easy. Comfortable. Like old friends instead of employer and employee. Celeste pushed food around her plate. Silent. Invisible. When was the last time Ashford had been this excited about anything involving her? When was the last time he'd looked at her like she mattered? The ride home was quiet. Ashford drove. Zara in the passenger seat because Celeste had claimed the back without thinking. Now she sat behind them. Watching. Ashford reached over at a red light and adjusted the air conditioning. "Too cold." "It's perfect," Zara said. Thank you. His hand lingered on the dashboard near her. Not touching but close. Celeste saw it all. That night, she did something she'd never done before. She went through Ashford's credit card statements. Every single charge for the past month. Pregnancy books. Vitamins. That nutritionist. Flowers. A rocking chair. Maternity clothes. Pages and pages of small purchases. Each one thoughtful. Each one proof that Ashford was thinking about Zara constantly. When was the last time he'd bought Celeste flowers? When was the last time he'd noticed what she needed? Celeste closed the laptop. Sat in the dark of her office. And felt something dangerous starting to grow inside her. Not a baby. Something worse. Jealousy. Have you ever felt replaced in your own home? Watched someone get the attention you desperately needed? How did you handle it? She planned the perfect celebration, and watched her husband celebrate with the wrong woman. By week 20, Zara's pregnancy was obvious. A round belly that announced itself before she entered a room. The kind strangers smiled at on the street. Celeste decided to throw a baby shower. Not because she wanted to. Because it's what people in their social circle expected. We need to control the narrative, she told Ashford. Show everyone we're a united modern family. So she planned it. Hired the best event coordinator in Manhattan. Sent invitations to everyone who mattered. Made sure photographers would be there to capture every perfect moment. The penthouse transformed into something from a magazine. Blue and white balloons. Flower arrangements that cost more than most people's rent. A dessert table that looked like art. Champagne fountains for the adults. Everything tasteful. Everything expensive. Everything designed to impress. Guests arrived in designer outfits. Manhattan's elite. Business partners. Society friends. People who came for appearances, not affection. They surrounded Celeste with air kisses and compliments. Such a brave choice, doing surrogacy. How modern of you. The baby is so lucky. But their eyes kept drifting to Zara. She stood near the window, uncomfortable in a maternity dress Ashford had bought her. Simple. Elegant. Nothing like the designer clothes the other women wore. But somehow she looked more real. More present. Guests kept approaching her. Asking about the pregnancy. When she was due. If she'd felt the baby kick. How she was feeling. Zara answered politely. Tried to redirect attention to Celeste. But people were curious about the woman actually carrying the child. Ashford stayed close to Zara the entire time. Bringing her water. Making sure she had a comfortable chair. Intercepting questions when they got too personal. She needs to rest, he'd say. Protective. Possessive. Celeste watched it all from across the room. Smile fixed on her face like a mask. Playing the gracious host while her husband played devoted father-to-be with the wrong woman. The moment that broke her happened during speeches. Celeste stood up first. Gave a prepared statement about modern families and gratitude and their journey to parenthood. Everyone clapped politely. Then Ashford stood. No notes. No preparation. Just raw emotion. I want to say something about Zara, he started. The room went quiet. This woman, his voice caught. This woman is giving us the greatest gift. She's sacrificing her body, her comfort, her independence for an entire year to make our dream possible. He turned to look at Zara directly. You could have said no. You should have said no. But you didn't. Because you have a heart bigger than this entire city. Zara, we owe you everything. The applause was thunderous. People stood. Some cried. It was the kind of moment that would be talked about for weeks. Ashford crossed the room. Pulled Zara to her feet. Hugged her carefully, mindful of her belly. The photographers captured it all. The embrace. The tears. The intimacy. Celeste saw it happen in slow motion. Her husband holding another woman. looking at her like she was the most important person in the world. In front of everyone who mattered. She excused herself, smiled, said she needed to check on something in the kitchen. Instead, she locked herself in the bathroom and stared at her reflection. Perfect makeup, perfect hair, perfect dress, perfect life. All of it a lie. When she finally came out, the party was winding down. Guests leaving. Ashford and Zara on the terrace. Talking. Laughing about something. Close. Too close. That night, after everyone left and Zara went to her room, Celeste confronted Ashford in their bedroom. "You made a fool of me today." Ashford looked up from his phone. Confused. "What are you talking about?" "That speech. That hug. The way you've been treating her like she's your wife instead of our surrogate." "I was expressing gratitude. You were expressing feelings." Celeste's voice rose. "In front of everyone we know. Do you have any idea how that looked?" "How what looked?" "Being grateful to the woman carrying our child. Being in love with her." The words hung in the air. Heavy. Accusatory. True. Ashford's face went carefully blank. "That's insane." "Is it?" Celeste stepped closer. "When's the last time you looked at me the way you look at her? When's the last time you bought me flowers? Checked on me? Cared if I was comfortable? That's different." "How? How is it different?" Ashford had no answer. Because it wasn't different. Not really. He did care for Zara. More than he should. More than was appropriate. More than he cared for his own wife. When had that happened? When had the lines blurred? "She's carrying our baby," he finally said. Weak defense. "Our baby. Not yours and hers. Ours." Celeste's eyes filled with tears. Real ones this time. "Not for show. But you've forgotten that, haven't you? You've forgotten I'm the one who wanted this. Who arranged this. Who's supposed to be the mother." "Celeste. Get out." "What?" "Get out of this room. Sleep somewhere else. I can't look at you right now." Ashford left. Walked down the hall to a guest room far from both Celeste and Zara. He sat on the bed in the dark. Pulled up photos from the shower on his phone. There he was. Hugging Zara. Looking at her like she was everything. Celeste was right. He'd crossed a line. Not physically. But emotionally. He'd been having an emotional affair and hadn't even realized it. The question was, what was he going to do about it? Have you ever thrown a party where you felt like a guest in your own life? Share that experience below. He bought her maternity clothes. That's when his wife knew she'd been replaced. 4 months pregnant turned into 5. Zara's body changed in ways she hadn't expected. Her regular clothes didn't fit anymore. Everything was tight. Uncomfortable. She made do with loose dresses and elastic waistbands. She didn't complain. This was part of the deal. Temporary discomfort for a greater purpose. But Ashford noticed. He always noticed. One afternoon, Zara was struggling to reach something on a high shelf. Standing on her toes. Hand stretched up. Her dress riding up slightly. Ashford walked in. Saw her struggling. Saw her discomfort. "Let me," he said, reaching over her easily. His chest almost touching her back. Close enough to smell her shampoo. Feel her warmth. He handed her the item. Their fingers brushed. "Thank you," she said, breathless for reasons that had nothing to do with reaching. Ashford noticed the way her dress pulled tight across her belly. Too tight. Uncomfortable. "Your clothes don't fit anymore," he said. Zara blushed. "It's fine. Just a few more months." "It's not fine. You shouldn't be uncomfortable." "Mr. Ashford, I can buy my own clothes." "I know you can. But let me do this. Please." The next day, a boutique bag appeared in her room. Expensive tissue paper. That smell only high-end stores have. Inside were maternity clothes. Not generic department store items. Beautiful pieces. Soft fabrics. Comfortable but elegant. In her exact size. Multiple outfits. Different styles. Clearly chosen with care and thought. Zara held up a soft cotton dress. Navy blue. Simple. Perfect. A note was tucked inside. You deserve to be comfortable. Hey. Her heart did something complicated in her chest. She tried on the dress. It fit perfectly. Soft where it needed to be. Loose in all the right places. Made her feel pretty instead of just pregnant. When she came down to the kitchen later, Ashford was there. His eyes lit up when he saw her. That looks good, he said. Not in a creepy way. In a genuine warm way that made her feel seen. You have good taste, Zara replied, smiling. I had help. The saleswoman asked about you. I told her you were special. Needed something comfortable but beautiful. Like you. The last two words were quiet. Almost like he hadn't meant to say them out loud. Zara's breath caught. They stood in the kitchen. Just looking at each other. The moment stretched too long. Both aware of crossing invisible lines but neither pulling back. Thank you, Zara finally whispered. Always. That's when Celeste walked in. She saw them. Standing too close. Looking at each other too long. Zara in a new dress that clearly came from expensive stores. Nice dress, Celeste said. Cold. Sharp. Mr. Ashford bought it, Zara said. Innocent. Not realizing the danger. Did he? Not a question. An accusation. Ashford turned. She needed maternity clothes. I took care of it. How thoughtful. Celeste's smile was ice. Buying clothes for another woman. While your wife stands right here. It's not like that. What's it like then? Celeste demanded. Explain to me what it's like. Because from where I'm standing, you just bought our employee intimate clothing and told her she's beautiful. She's carrying our child, Celeste. So you keep saying, our child. But you treat her like she's carrying your child. Like I don't exist. Zara backed away. I should go. No. Celeste turned on her. Stay. You're part of this conversation. You're part of everything now, apparently. Mrs. Ashford, I never meant. Didn't you? Walking around here in clothes my husband bought you. Letting him dote on you. Playing the victim while stealing someone else's life. Enough. Ashford's voice cracked like thunder. Zara is doing nothing wrong. If you have a problem, it's with me. Oh, I have a problem with you. But don't pretend she's innocent. She knows exactly what she's doing. Zara felt tears threatening. This was getting ugly. Dangerous. I'm going to my room, she said quietly. Trying to escape before the situation exploded further. She left. Heard their voices rising behind her. Accusations. Denials. The sounds of a marriage dying in real time. That night, Celeste went through Ashford's credit card statements again. The maternity clothes were just the latest. There were months of purchases. Small things that added up to big feelings. Flowers delivered weekly to Zara's room. Books about pregnancy. A humidifier. Special pillows. Organic lotions. Each purchase was evidence. Proof that Ashford thought about Zara constantly. Cared about her comfort. Her happiness. When was the last time he'd thought about Celeste that way? She pulled up her phone. Searched. Signs your husband is in love with someone else. Every article described Ashford's behavior perfectly. Celeste closed her eyes. Made a decision. She wasn't going to lose her husband to the help. Wasn't going to lose the baby she'd arranged. She'd find a way to end this. Whatever it took. When does care become emotional cheating? Where's the line between kindness and intimacy? Tell me your perspective. The baby was thriving. The household was dying. Something had to break. Week 24 brought new developments. The baby started kicking regularly. Strong enough that you could see it from outside. Little bumps pushing against Zara's belly. The first time it happened in front of Ashford, he stopped mid-sentence. Stared at her stomach. Was that the baby? Zara confirmed. Smiling. Hand over the spot where tiny feet were pressing. Can I? Ashford asked. Hand hovering. Hopeful. Zara nodded. His palm spread across her belly. Warm. Large. Gentle. They stood frozen. Waiting. Then it happened. A kick right against his hand. Ashford's face transformed. Wonder. Joy. Something close to worship. That's my kid, he whispered. Voice thick. That's my actual kid in there. Another kick. Stronger this time. Zara laughed. They're active today. Ashford knelt. Brought his face close to her belly. Hey in there. It's me. Your dad. I can't wait to meet you. You're going to have the best life. I promise. He pressed his forehead gently against where the baby kicked. A moment of connection. Father to child. With Zara as the bridge between them. When he looked up, tears were streaming down his face. Zara's hand moved on its own. Touched his hair. Just for a second. A gesture of comfort. Affection. They both froze. Aware of the intimacy. The boundary crossed. Ashford stood quickly. Stepped back. Sorry. I got carried away. It's okay, Zara said. But her heart was racing. What they didn't know was Celeste had seen it all. From the hallway. Hidden in shadow. She'd watched her husband kneel before another woman. Press his face against her pregnant belly. Get touched by her like it was natural. Normal. Right. Celeste walked to her office on silent feet. Closed the door. And started researching divorce lawyers. But then something occurred to her. If she divorced before the baby was born, what happened to custody? The baby was genetically Ashford's. The egg donor was anonymous. Celeste had no biological claim. If she left now, she'd lose everything. Her husband. The child she'd arranged. Her place in society as half of a power couple. She'd be the woman who couldn't have kids and got replaced by the help. Social death. No. She couldn't leave. Not yet. But she couldn't live like this either. Watching them fall in love in slow motion. Watching herself become a ghost in her own home. Something had to change. Meanwhile, Ashford started working from home more. Cancelled business trips. Rearranged his entire schedule around Zara's prenatal appointments. You don't have to come to every appointment, Zara said one morning. I'm fine going alone. I want to be there, Ashford said. Simple. True. But it's taking you away from work. Nothing is more important than this. Than you. Than making sure you're both healthy. You. Not the baby. Not my child. You. Zara heard it. The shift. The way he talked about her and the baby as a unit now. Like they came together. Package deal. She should correct him. Remind him she was just the surrogate. Temporary. Not permanent. But she didn't. Because somewhere in the past 6 months, lines had blurred for her too. She looked forward to his morning greetings. His check-ins. The way he made her laugh. The safety she felt around him. This wasn't supposed to happen. She wasn't supposed to develop feelings. This was a job. A favor. A transaction with a generous emotional component. But the heart doesn't care about what's supposed to happen. One night, Zara couldn't sleep. Baby kicking too much. Mind racing. She went to the kitchen for water. Ashford was already there. Also unable to sleep. Making tea in the dark. Hey, he said. Soft. not wanting to startle her. Hey. They moved around each other in the darkness, bodies aware of proximity. His hand steadied her when she reached too high for a cup. Her breath caught. His thumb unconsciously stroked her wrist before pulling away. Sorry, they both whispered at the same time. Then laughed quietly. Shared moment of awkwardness. Can't sleep? Ashford asked. Baby's doing gymnastics. Mind if I? He gestured toward her belly. Zara nodded. His hand found the spot where the baby kicked. They stood in the dark kitchen. His palm warm against her. Baby moving between them. Connection that felt sacred and forbidden at the same time. Thank you, Ashford whispered. For all of this. You already thanked me. I'll never thank you enough. His other hand came up. Cupped her face. Thumb stroking her cheek. They were too close. Looking at each other in the darkness. Both aware of how easy it would be to close the distance. Press lips together. Stop pretending these feelings didn't exist. Ashford's phone buzzed. Shattered the moment. He stepped back. Looked at the screen. Celeste texting from upstairs. Where are you? Reality crashed back. I should go, he said. Yeah. He left. But the feeling lingered. The almost kiss. The admission that they both felt something wrong and right at the same time. Upstairs, Celeste stared at her phone. She'd heard footsteps. Known Ashford had gone downstairs. Texted to see how long it took him to answer. 6 minutes. What happened in those 6 minutes? Her imagination filled in blanks that were worse than reality. This couldn't continue. Something had to break. Had to end. She just didn't know yet that when it broke, it would nearly kill them all. Have you ever felt trapped in a situation where every option led to losing? What did you do? Every tragedy has a before. This was theirs, the last normal morning before everything shattered. 6 months pregnant. Baby healthy. Everything on track. The morning started ordinary. Deceptively peaceful. Ashford woke early. Meeting scheduled with investors. Important but boring. The kind that paid for their lifestyle but drained his soul. He stopped by Zara's room on his way out. Knocked softly. Come in, her voice called. She was sitting on the bed. Struggling with her shoes. Belly too big now to reach her feet comfortably. Let me, Ashford said automatically. He knelt. Took her foot gently in his hands. Slipped on her shoe. Tied the laces. His fingers brushed her ankle. Warm. Intimate in its casualness. You don't have to do this, Zara said. Embarrassed. I want to. He looked up at her. Smiled. Besides, it's my fault you can't reach. Pretty sure that's the baby's fault. My baby then. He finished with her shoes. But his hands lingered. One on her ankle. One on her calf. Warm through her skin. Zara's hand moved without thinking. Touched his hair. Soft. Brief. A gesture of affection she couldn't hold back. Their eyes met. Something unspoken passed between them. This was more than employer and employee. More than surrogate arrangement. Something real and complicated and dangerous. From the doorway, Celeste watched. Had been watching. Seeing her husband kneel before another woman. Touch her gently. Look at her with tenderness. Something inside Celeste cracked clean through. Ashford stood. Didn't notice his wife in the hallway. I'll be back this afternoon. Call if you need anything. Have a good meeting, Zara said. He left. Kissed Celeste's cheek in passing. Habit. No warmth. Just routine. The difference between how he touched them was impossible to miss. After Ashford left, the penthouse went quiet. Celeste worked from her home office. Or pretended to. Really, she watched Zara through the glass walls. Watched her move through the kitchen. One hand always protective on her belly. That small smile when the baby kicked. The peace on her face. That peace broke Celeste. Because she should be the one feeling that. She should be the one glowing with pregnancy. She should be the one Ashford couldn't stop touching. Instead, she was the broken one. The failure. The wife who couldn't give her husband what he wanted. And Zara, young, healthy, fertile Zara, was living the life Celeste should have had. Around 10 in the morning, Celeste walked to the kitchen. Zara was making tea, humming softly to herself. "We need to talk," Celeste said. Voice cold. Zara turned. Sensed danger immediately. "Mrs. Ashford. Don't call me that. You've taken everything else. Don't pretend to respect me now. I haven't taken anything." "Really?" Celeste stepped closer. "You're walking around in clothes my husband bought. Living in my home. Carrying what should have been my baby. And you haven't taken anything." "This was your idea," Zara said carefully, trying to de-escalate. "You asked me to do this. I asked you to carry a baby. Not steal my husband. I'm not. You are." Celeste's voice rose. "I see the way you look at him. The way he looks at you. You think I'm blind. Mrs. Ashford, please. This stress isn't good for the baby." The baby. Always the baby. That's the only reason any of this matters, right? Because you're carrying his child. My child. The child I can't have because my body is broken. Tears ran down Celeste's face. Rage and pain mixed together. Zara backed away. Toward the stairs. "I think we should talk about this later. When we're both calmer." "No. We're talking now. I want to hear you admit it." "Admit what?" "That you're in love with my husband." The words hung in the air. Heavy. Accusatory. And true. Zara's face went pale. Because she couldn't deny it. Not convincingly. Somewhere in the past 6 months, she'd fallen. Gradually. Then suddenly. Until Ashford was the first person she thought about in the morning and the last before sleep. "I never meant for that to happen," Zara whispered. "But it did." Celeste's voice was quiet now. More dangerous than when she was yelling. "It did happen. And now what? You think he's going to leave me for you? The help who carries babies for money?" "I don't expect anything. You expect everything. Walking around here like you own the place. Like you're his wife. Like you matter." "I'm sorry," Zara said. Backing up the stairs now. 1 step. 2. "I'm sorry. I'll leave. After the baby is born, I'll leave and never come back." "That's not good enough." Celeste followed her up the stairs. Years of resentment pouring out. All the pain of failed treatments. The humiliation of her body failing. The rage of being replaced. Zara climbed faster. Hand on the railing. Other hand on her belly. Protecting the baby even as she retreated. Halfway up, she turned. Tried one more time. "Please. Mrs. Ashford. I don't want to fight. Think of the baby." "You think I haven't thought about the baby? I've thought about nothing but the baby for 5 years. That baby is the only reason you're here. The only reason he looks at you. Without that baby, you're nothing." The cruelty was meant to wound. It did. Zara felt tears coming. "I need to go lie down." She turned. Continued up the stairs. That's when Celeste snapped. Watching Zara walk away. Watching the woman who'd taken everything retreat to safety. Watching her husband's child move inside another woman's body. Something inside Celeste broke completely. She followed Zara up the stairs. Fast. Furious. "Don't walk away from me," she screamed. Zara stopped. Turned. Fear clear on her face now. They stood on the staircase. 6 steps between them. A distance that would determine everything. "Please," Zara begged. "I'll leave. I'll go right now. Just let me." But Celeste wasn't listening anymore. She was beyond reason, beyond thought. Pure rage took over. She lunged forward, hands extended, and pushed. Hard. Zara's eyes went wide. Her mouth opened in shock. Her arms reached desperately for the railing. But there was nothing but air. And 12 marble steps below. Have you ever known something bad was about to happen but couldn't stop it? That feeling of inevitability? Share below. Words were the first violence. The push came after. Time slowed as Zara fell. Her body twisted. Instinct making her try to protect her belly. Her hands clutched protectively even as she tumbled. The first impact was her shoulder. Crack against marble. Pain exploded through her. Second step. Her hip. Bone meeting stone. Third step. Her back. Air forced from her lungs. She tried to grab the railing. Fingers brushed it. Couldn't hold on. Fourth step. Fifth. Sixth. Each impact worse than the last. Her body a ragdoll with no control. Gravity pulling her down. Marble unforgiving. Her screams filled the penthouse. Raw. Primal. Terror and pain mixed together in sounds that didn't seem human. 7. 8. 9. Blood now. She tasted it. Felt it. Warm and wrong. 10. 11. Almost at the bottom. Almost over. 12. The final impact. Her head hit with a sickening crack. The world went white. Then black. Then white again. Consciousness flickering. She landed at the bottom in a heap. Blood spreading immediately. Dark red pooling around her. Soaking into her dress. The dress Ashford had bought her. Her hands found her stomach. Still clutched it. Protective even in agony. "My baby," she whispered. Blood bubbling on her lips. "Please. My baby." At the top of the stairs, Celeste stood frozen. Hand still extended. Still shaped around the push. Horror dawning on her face as reality hit. What had she done? Oh God. What had she done? Zara's eyes found hers. Pleading. "Help me. Please help me." But Celeste couldn't move. Paralyzed by the magnitude of what she'd just done. By seeing her rage made flesh. Made consequence. Made murder. Because that's what this was. Murder. Or attempted murder. She'd just pushed a pregnant woman down the stairs. There was no undoing that. No taking it back. "Please," Zara whispered again. Weaker now. "My baby." Celeste took a step back. Then another. Like distance could erase what happened. Like running could undo the push. That's when the front door opened. Ashford walked in. Meeting cancelled early. Some instinct bringing him home when he was needed most. He saw Zara immediately. Broken at the bottom of the stairs. Blood everywhere. Her hands on her stomach. Eyes fluttering. Zara. He dropped everything. Ran to her. Dropped to his knees in the blood. Didn't care. Didn't notice. "Stay with me. Zara, stay with me." His hands moved over her. Trying to assess damage. Trying to stop the bleeding. But there was too much. Too much blood. Too much wrong. He pulled out his phone. Dialed 911 with shaking hands. "I need an ambulance. Now." Pregnant woman. Fell downstairs. Massive bleeding. Not responding properly. Ashford Penthouse, 762, Park Avenue. The operator asked questions. Ashford answered on autopilot. But his eyes never left Zara's face. "Don't close your eyes," he begged. "Please don't close your eyes." "The baby," Zara whispered. So quiet he almost didn't hear. "Save the baby. I'm going to save both of you. Just hold on. Please hold on." His hands pressed against the worst bleeding. His expensive suit ruined. his watch broken from the impact of his own body hitting the floor. None of it mattered. Only Zara mattered. Only keeping her alive. That's when he looked up. Saw Celeste at the top of the stairs. Still frozen. Still horrified. Their eyes met. And Ashford knew. Instantly. Completely. You, he said. Voice dead. You did this. Celeste's face crumbled. She opened her mouth. Closed it. No words could explain. No excuse could justify. I didn't mean, she started. Get out of my sight. Ashford. Get out. His roar echoed through the penthouse. Rage replacing shock. Fury replacing grief. Celeste stumbled backward. Away from his rage. Away from the consequences of what she'd done. Sirens screamed closer. Up Park Avenue. Coming to save or fail to save the life bleeding out on marble floors. Ashford turned back to Zara. Her eyes were closing. Consciousness slipping. No. Zara. No. Stay with me. The ambulance is almost here. Just hold on. Hurts, she whispered. I know it hurts. But you're strong. The strongest person I know. You can do this. Stay with me. Her hand found his. Squeezed weakly. I'm sorry. You have nothing to be sorry for. Nothing. This is my fault. All of this is my fault. Paramedics burst through the door. Professional. Efficient. They moved Ashford aside with firm hands. What happened? She fell down the stairs. 26 weeks pregnant. Massive trauma. They moved fast. Checking vitals. Starting IVs. Immobilizing her neck. All while maintaining pressure on wounds that wouldn't stop bleeding. BP dropping. Fetal distress. We need to move now. They loaded Zara onto a stretcher. Strapped her down. Covered her with blankets that immediately turned red. Ashford climbed into the ambulance without asking. Sat beside her. Held her hand. Sir, are you family? She's carrying my child, Ashford said. I'm not leaving her. The paramedic nodded. Didn't argue. As the ambulance doors closed, Ashford looked back one last time. Celeste stood in the doorway. Small. Broken. Guilty. Their marriage ended in that moment. No words needed. Just the sight of her standing there. Having destroyed everything. The ambulance pulled away. Sirens wailing. And Ashford held Zara's cold hand the entire way. Praying to gods he didn't believe in. Making promises he didn't know if he could keep. Just please let her live. Let them both live. He'd figure out the rest later. If you had unlimited resources to seek justice, how far would you go? Is revenge the same as justice? Tell me your thoughts.